We know the industry is changing. We know the tools are changing, and you cannot lock yourself into one study plan. If you don't follow through, you become obsolete. When you finish with our study plan, you can hopefully write, right? You can deliver the idea, communicate idea, pitch, and then grab a relevant piece of gear and make it happen. I think our main goal is to merge these three branches: film, television journalism, and then new media that includes social media. And then we let our students do their best and find their subspecialties.
Hello and welcome back to the Ajyal Show, produced to you by the Doha Film Institute. I'm your host, Mohammed Abdulaziz Fakhra. If you ever wanted to work in film or media and wondered where to start, this episode is for you. A lot of people think that becoming a filmmaker means picking up a camera and figuring out things as you go. And there's some truth to that. But there's also something that gets overlooked: the craft underneath the camera, the knowledge of how a set actually runs, how crews work, and how equipment actually functions, and why all of that matters before you can actually tell a story. Today's guest has spent his career thinking exactly about that. He is a filmmaker, cinematographer, and an academic who's worked across Serbia, New York, New Zealand, and now in Qatar. He currently serves as the head of Digital Communication and Media Production Department at the University of Doha for Science and Technology, where he is building one of the most hands-on media programs in the region. In this episode, we talk about what it means to build something new in a small industry, how education can shape the future of a creative market, and what skills give young people the best chance of making real work in Qatar and beyond. Without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Milan Maric to the Ajyal Show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on board. I'm looking forward to this conversation today.
Me too.
Can you walk us through how your journey before Qatar was like? Where did it all start?
Well, I'm originally from Serbia, and I started a career in TV. I was kind of self-taught, which is kind of good point. I mean, I like your introduction that you mentioned that even before thinking about the gear or maybe a script, I guess you need an energy. And I was always drawn to the world of moving images, born and raised in a small town. Fun fact, I actually studied medicine before, and I have a nursing degree. And then I was kind of self-taught, right? I ended up working in television, and at the age of 29, I ended up going back to film school, one of the best film schools, Faculty of Drama Art in Belgrade. And that really gave me wings. I had a really good mentor. We learned heaps in these kind of 3 years. And right after, I left for New York. There I did my master in cinematography, documentary directing. First degree bachelor was film and TV editing. And then I work as a freelancer. I had many gigs, full-time job, but then a lot of side gigs, about 50 short films. Even during the master, we made we were very, very productive group. We made 35 films. One of them is kind of featured here tonight. And after working for about 22 years in the industry, I decided I want to do something different. And I always wrote these little concepts about my observations, from the field, from the industry. And then one of these concepts ended up being my PhD thesis on vertical video and how vertical video changed the grammar of traditional film and television language. And then I traveled to New Zealand to do my PhD. So when I saw this opportunity, yes, and in between I spent some brief time in Abu Dhabi, so I knew about the region, and I wanted to come back. So when I saw the opportunity at University of Doha for Science and Technology, the program was completely new. It was a clean slate, and I thought this is an amazing opportunity to combine this practical and academic knowledge.
It's quite a beautiful journey that you just drew for us. How did you end up moving from working in the industry into academia?
At some point in New York, it became overwhelming. TV days plus film freelancing and then gigs, photography gigs, cinematography gigs, commercial. It takes a lot of time. And I said to myself, I think I would like to share this knowledge somehow before I get burned out, before it becomes oversaturated. And I'm still like being surrounded by gear. I like working hands-on. I think this is what makes our program so different. And I think you can tell the faculty that we're bringing, right? If you still have this energy to be happy when you pick up a piece of gear and immediately can be creative or improvising or simply playing with it. I think this is really important. But again, in the long run, I wanted to translate. As I said, I always had these little concepts, and my master degree in between bachelor and PhD was practical. And I do like reading, I do like theory, I do like film. So I wanted to dive a bit deeper, to go back. And I really had fun doing my PhD because it was thesis with exegesis. I still produced 60,000 words document, full 8 chapters. But then again, I produced a short film in vertical version and horizontal version. I also produced a separate 4 music videos, combining my cinematography and directing skills, observational skills I've honed as a video and film editor into, I would say, pretty light read. I included a lot of photos, like 120 photos, just to illustrate. I wanted to make something that it's very understandable. And then, of course, I was using bits and pieces of this in my teaching, and while also being employed full-time for City University of New York television station, I was always managing crew of interns. And then they were telling me, you're doing this fine, like this could become a career one day. And I said, why not? Because I was already teaching a few production courses in New Zealand while doing my PhD. I was also freelancing still, in the Wellington, Auckland. I even went to Australia for a few gigs, and but this is next level, right? What we are doing in DCMP, this is really hands-on production, full on. Yeah.
So if you can take me through when you were in New Zealand and you graduated in PhD, what did you see in Qatar specifically that attracted you?
It's a new market. It's a challenge, right? For better or worse. I know some faculty may like to come in the institutions that are completely established, right? And then give me my class and leave me alone. What I liked about this opportunity, it is applied. It is quite unique. It is something that I can, like my program in Belgrade, back in Faculty of Drama Art, was something like this, and it was highly successful. Also, what was happening in New Zealand, Veta Workshop and Veta Digital as a part of New Zealand kind of film ecosystem. I thought it's quite amazing to live in a small city of 300,000 people, 500,000, the whole metropolitan area. If you draw a circle of 100 kilometers, you wouldn't find more than 500,000 people. Yet, they have avatars, they have Lord of the Rings. All of these productions are done in fairly small space. So I thought, if I have the opportunity to, I didn't dare to dream as big. Now the program is, when we have graduates, this is next level. But when I came here, it was still clean slate. I got immediately a lot of support from my direct supervisors. And then I said, okay, we can try. We rearranged study plan. We tidied it up to make it clear cut. You have first year general education, then you have second year television production, and then you move to something that it's more complicated. I'm not saying journalism is simple thing, but knowing that market needs are in many different directions. We said 1 year television, 1 year focused on documentary production, concept art, technology. We do teach a lot. We go into nuts and bolts how these devices operate. And then cinema studies. I think this is really good for now. And then we can figure it out, like we can do more market analysis. And actually, what we are doing next week on this topic is program advisory committee meetings where we have people, including representatives from DFI, and we talk. We go back and forth. We can always fine-tune program. Of course, AI is one of the topics, but again, the core of the skills of storytelling skills, I think that's something that if you're able to teach that well, I think your kind of degree has a longer shelf life, because then you can utilize different tools in television production, documentary, cinema, or somewhere else.
If you can walk us through how did you figure out what the program should look like?
There was already, when I joined UDST, there was already a comprehensive project proposal, right? This is start of any academic programs. And then some faculty members from the College of Business at UDST and College of Computing and IT, together with IVPA, they put together, Dr. Rashid, they put together this comprehensive project proposal. So this was the outline. But then there were names of the courses, there were some details, but again, when we start, when I joined faculty and when we start hiring new faculty, then you have real subject experts. And this is when the fine-tuning happened. Of course, I'm more inclined, I used to work in television and cinema, but then you have, new media, concept art, right? As I mentioned, you have people with subspecialties in journalism that we have as a faculty. We have one faculty who used to work in the region, in Europe and Africa as a director. He also worked with Al-Qas. So this is the kind of level of experience that we wanted to have in the program. And from there, with many meetings, right? Discussions with faculty, industry partners, reflecting on this comprehensive project proposal, we slowly ended up with what we have today. But look, it's important to mention, this is like a live thing, right? We know the industry is changing. We know the tools are changing, and you cannot lock yourself into one study plan. I'm not saying you need to jump on any new opportunity, right? That doesn't mean just because we now have this tool, I'm gonna reshape the entire study plan. But, if you don't follow through, you become obsolete and irrelevant. So, and as I said, I think our main goal is to merge these three branches: film, television journalism, and then new media that includes social media. And then we let our students do their best and find their subspecialties.
I believe it's a part of the nature of media that it's ever evolving. It always shows up in a new way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But for you, does technical training come before everything else?
I think idea should come first, and then the medium is like, if you are passionate about your topic or what story that you're trying to say, then you can choose the right medium. As they say, TV didn't kill the radio star. Here we are sitting, doing podcasts with 3 cameras, right? And it's the same old format, right? People can switch the video off, on if they want. But, this is just a medium that gives us option that this message goes further. So I think that's the same. You need an idea. You need a drive to tell a story. And this is what we insist from the first program-specific course, like in year 1. We tell students, you don't take photos, you make photos, right? And then you need to talk about them. You need to talk about your idea. Or maybe, I see something in this photo or something different that it's coming with my professional experience, cultural background, and that's the beauty of it. But if you explain, right, this is the communication part, you can have one photo can become a poster that can inspire a movie, right? So this is now storytelling. And I think storytelling comes first, but then of course technology. We talk about technology agnostic approach before complaining about latest and greatest. Do you really need this camera? Is it necessary to be HD, 4K, whatever, right? Is this the right tool for the job? Is this too heavy and cumbersome? Do you need one camera or two? Can you do it alone? So these are all discussions that we are having with students. Students submit with almost all practical assignments, they submit their reflection documents, which are marked at the same level as kind of, is the footage in focus? Are you following the traditional grammar of moving images? And then, of course, anything else in between. We also teach music video, and we got some amazing examples of students be extremely creative in solo productions.
If you can kind of walk us through the application process and how that changed ever since the program
application. One of the first thing that I proposed was portfolio, creative portfolio and cover letter. Again, this is not something that I invented. I think any competitive program is asking for some kind of pre-vetting. And again, this is one of the huge misconceptions, in my opinion. We're not introducing portfolio to keep people away. I also noticed throughout my career that sometimes people get in the media for wrong reasons, and they end up in production. They don't like equipment. They don't like long hours. They don't like uncertain hours, mornings and afternoons and nights, because you need the sunrise, this kind of stuff. So portfolio and a cover letter is there to present the idea, who are you at this point in time? You're basically, we are hoping that students one day can be better than us, okay? And I like film and cinematography, maybe you like something else, right? And we need to hear about it and show us in this point in time, right? You are applying for fall 26, what you like to do. And then we can say, yes, we are right fit for you. We can help you grow. Or maybe you should go to some different institution if this is not, if this is not one to put you on the right career path. And then the physicality of media production, I found that something that really needs to be stressed time and again. That if you really want to go in production, especially cinema, it will be a lot of gear, cables, trucks of equipment, right? Rain or shine. And you need to be a can-do person, right? To make it happen. So it is portfolio is there to show us, do you have the right attitude or mindset? And when people say, how do you vet that? Well, variety of subjects, topics, times of a day. If you shoot entire portfolio in your room and you submit your best shots are from FIFA that happened 4 years ago and you haven't done anything else after, think about it, right? Are you really keen in doing this? So yeah, this is the vetting process. We vet portfolios as a panel. I am the department head, but then again, my colleagues do have a voice and that table, equal voice. And we use a traffic light system that, like, if let's say the entire panel says green, immediately the candidate is immediately accepted. We have orange for kind of waiting lists, but we are fortunate to actually have a lot more candidates than seats. So basically there's no waiting list. And then if panels see that candidates is simply misplaced for our program or kind of weak portfolio or low GPA, this is another thing. If you have a competitive program, if you have two portfolios that are vetted, that are labeled at the same level of technical quality and aesthetics, we look at the GPA and then we make a final decision.
And did setting that standard change the kind of students that are coming in?
You can definitely see the difference. As department continues to grow, so does the diverse student body, including some international students who are now joining us. And I would say every year the quality is going up because we do have more facilities, more gear. We have more faculty. This is really important with subspecialties. So once you reach your practicum and capstone year in a final year, in a year 4, we now can offer faculty that has a really specialization in film or in journalism research, or in some, immersive and concept art. And I think that's also a big kind of driver, right, of this kind of diversity in quality. But then again, we only have one batch for now, first 26. But if you reflect on the intake numbers, it will be more.
Okay. I mean, it's good to know how the program has started and has evolved ever since. I want to kind of know, what was your first year like for you and for your students and that experience? Can you walk us through that?
First year was a bumpy ride, because when we came, there was when I came, I was first faculty to be hired. The courses were developed at a very high level, right? But that's not what you're actually going to present in the lab. Again, this was opportunity at the same level as it was a potential problem. But again, me coming from the industry and then teaching already certain production courses in New Zealand, I had a base. But then the students, you see, though that first group, I said, for them was very, very challenging. They didn't know what to expect. When they actually joined the program in fall of 22, there was no DCMP faculty. They start with some general education courses throughout their first semester, and then they met me in January after FIFA, and we kind of start setting the bar. And it was, I feel for these guys, right? I'm happy that they are now graduating. They came, at the other side successful, but it was challenging. There was no equipment, no labs. We had actually huge budget already allocated for our program, but the studio that we built in the meantime wasn't built. So I actually have a really good behind the scenes. I have snapshots of a classroom with 24 computers, okay? Windows, like a traditional classroom. And then how did we start building our studio and cyclorama and start bringing a jib and building a program control room. And this became our media lab. Later on, we built one lab that is pretty much like this space that you have a large open space, and then you can dress it any way you want. And we got another specialized lab that it's good for smaller productions. But after first 30, and even after introducing portfolio, when we were certain, when CCIT leadership and UDST leadership was certain that we'll have a steady numbers, like a really large numbers, then we really start thinking big. And now a new labs are proposed. We are now waiting. A lot more gear is spending, and we pretty much, by the time we delivered first batch, which is spring of 2026, right, this year, we grew almost tenfold, from 30 to now almost 300, 294 active students.
Wow.
And what is equally important, why placing, putting right people in the right place, right students in the right programs. We have more than 75% students in the good standings because they like to be there. There's no back and forth transfers. Of course, we have some students who are struggling. We try to help them out, with GPA, but the vast majority is very motivated. We can send them emails. Hey, we have a gig. We have a cross-department collaborations. Do you want to participate? And so far, for these 3.5 years, there was always somebody who applied, somebody who came for the gig. And this is, again, a really good point for what we're discussing here. This is how you build community. So it's not just about having your office hour dealing with academic stuff, right, or advising. We have our green room. We sit outside in the courtyard, and then you talk. You talk about projects. This is how it starts cooking, right? And now we're proud that we have students delivering their first capstones, and we hope they will come back. We're already working on this to inspire juniors. We can still support them with some facilities through Alumni Association, through UDST Alumni Association. But I think this is the key. And the main question, we do get these questions where I'm going to work, more from parents than from candidates, because I feel, as a parent, I understand where they're coming from. And this is also what we're trying to change. We say, you need to be ready, you need to be motivated, and then your skills will take you places. And as, of course, with other educational institutions and partners, right, with media entities, I think we're on the right track.
How does it look when you actually teach someone how to work on set? If we're going to have a closer look at it.
One of the things that I included in all production courses that I was teaching throughout years 1 to 4 is terminology. From year 1, we have terminology tests, and we insist this is not about citing definitions. We give you a photo and explain in photographic and cinematic terms, what do you see in this photo? And this is how we train students to become better and better at this in observing these little details, because unlike maybe popular opinion, yes, you can quantify in theory what is good photo, right? Or a video. And then you build upon it, like this is really engaging, right? And the camera movements, editing, and everything else that comes after. In second year, we have studio competency test. This is misleadingly easy. We give students 30 minutes. We line up gear. Says you have 5 minutes to select gear, pitch your project, set up 2 lights, microphone, a single camera, and then 5 minutes to clean it up. So again, this is what TV crew would do. In documentary production, we also make sure that production courses have a line of prerequisites. So we want you to finish the basics before moving on to advanced courses. So for example, in the fall of first term of year 3, we have TV and film production technologies, where we go in the nuts and bolts, how microphones work, how camera work, and why, not again, to stress students out. But we want to have a crew that if something happens with this piece of gear, you can fix it quickly, right? Or at least know who to contact, or to troubleshoot. So this is really important. And then from a mid of year 3, we don't talk anymore about theory. You are going into documentary production. You again have something that it's competency test, as a kind of refresher of more advanced terminology, start discussing. This is not about, I know how to apply a filter, but why? Why would you use a certain color? How this can tell a story, your particular story? Is this culturally appropriate, right? How meaning of color is perceived differently maybe in Middle East, Western world, or Asia, right? This is the kind of theoretical component. Then you get a chance to do your movies, and we say short, first assignment is short film, short documentary film, of course, third year, much higher technical standards. And if you like the idea, you have a pitch, you have a short film, okay, now work on a longer project, 10 to 12 minutes, a beautiful format for festivals. And if you like this one, if it's worthwhile, you can pitch this to community, to festivals, or any entities all around the world. The idea is when you finish with the program, you get versatile coverage of television, new media, and cinema, and have portfolio. Of course, professional portfolio. Because students get really fussy when I say this, when I start talking about knowledge, not marks. And then, they tend to complain at the beginning. But now, when we have graduates and when they start going in the work placements, all of them appreciate. Now they know GPA is nice. It's for bragging rights, right? You get something as a 4.0, right, or above 3.5, which is amazing. But we know in the industry that has a much lesser value. If you don't have the skills, if you don't have the attitude, or if you don't have the versatility, all of these are, I would say, way more important for your career and shelf life of your degree than saying, I have a high number. I enrolled in the best film school in the region with My GPA was 2.6, but then I nailed the exam. And I already work in the industry. I had the experience. So that's how they accepted me. And then I kind of pick it up on the theory and once again, 15 years later with the PhD. But again, this is coming from, motivation and the right attitude.
Mm-hmm. And practicality and theory both matter. But I want to know, for you, what are you the most proud of for the upcoming first graduate students that you have?
Look, I haven't seen the movies yet. We keep pushing the deadline. We had some disruptions, so we know they couldn't work outside, and we want them to have something they're really proud of. So I'm quite keen to see these films. The deadline is Friday midnight. But I'm proud that, look, in such a diverse group, they find their way, they found their bearings. They finished now the program and they feel very proud. And they now, they see the potential in Doha, in region, they see potential in telling their own stories from their own community. I also get emails every once in a while, really important, even from students who had some rough time in courses, even failing, who are now saying, I get it. I understand what it means to get the skill and knowledge above me complaining for not getting certain mark or even retaking the course. And I think this is the key. Because if they, with this mindset, I think they should be ready to absorb kind of feedback from colleagues, learn from colleagues. This is the communication part, right? On top of when we say, communication is commonly outshined by production, because once you have all the bells and whistles and cameras, but we do talk a lot about this networking component, about being able to pitch. Maybe you're the smartest in the room, has the best idea. If you don't know how to deliver, what is the value, right? People need to know about you again, without being too assertive, with the taste. But we cannot, again, underestimate the technical part. Because what makes you so versatile is, you can do it ultimately by yourself, right? You can create, when you finish with our study plan, you can hopefully write, right? You can deliver the idea, communicate idea, pitch, and then grab a relevant piece of gear and make it happen. So I think this is what is happening right now as we speak, as this first generation is going out. And now when you see that they are saying, we're happy that we finished, but we plan to come back, we're going to stop by to see how you guys are doing. I think this is really critical.
How would you describe the media industry in Qatar as we speak?
I would say as very young overall. There are some major brands, starting of course with Al Jazeera, that recently celebrated 30 years. I think the TV industry is getting a lot more attention than cinema, but I have a feeling there is quite a big chunk of community that would like to have more of cinema and to change this, right? To have this voice in feature films, in documentary films, in fiction films, in all kinds of flavors of cinema production. Or again, when you talk about Qatar to somebody from the outside, yes, they will say, being Qatar Media Corporation, right? Al Jazeera Media Institute. And then, of course, Doha Film Institute with the projects that are coming to Doha from all over the world. But I would say young. There is no photography scene is kind of very small, right? People are still shy. It's not that easy to go out and start filming. We all support permits, but sometimes it's very hard to the point that people simply drop the ideas, right? This cannot be done. Technology can help to some extent, but I think even with these 3.5 years that I spent in Doha, I see it's changing. It's slowly opening, so it is easier. Like some ideas, even for our own campus, like something that was, we want to shoot on campus or we want to shoot on Friday because there is no time, right? The production cannot wait. We need to get this done. It was straight no. Right now, we have DCMP students kind of filming permits. Security become more comfortable with us. They see the value of what we are doing here. They understand the need for hands-on component, for this experiential learning, and things are, moving. We now see projects coming from Sherib, Souk, talking to people in the street, in the cafes. And I think there is also a lot of misconception. Yes, the culture is traditional, but that doesn't mean people don't want to tell their stories. This is also big misconception. And I was thinking kind of really hard, how should I formulate documentary production course when it was offered first time in year 3. But then I said, look, I have a feeling this can work, but we need to try. So what happened in this first instance, everybody complained, where I'm going to find the subject, Nobody wants to talk to me. When they start talking to people, that's not true. There were some amazing subjects, some quirky people willing to share their stories, some VIP people willing to share their stories. So one thing is sure, there is no shortage of stories, but there was a shortage of this will to ask. I have a feeling the community still do not understand the full potential, what they can do with this, with this degree, and what can be done in Doha if you are willing to try.
Mm-hmm. I think there's also that aspect which is what you spoke about, which is introducing a tool into society and seeing how people kind of use it. I want to ask you about AI, as some people think, or some people would argue, that AI is making technical skills less important. What is your opinion on that?
When I joined UDST in January 23, I think a few weeks later, it was a GPT 3.5. And I think that was a really revolution for many. For the entire year, every discussion, right, was about evil AI who's taken over everything. IT jobs, production jobs, pretty much any job. And this is, again, in my opinion, optimization. It is a tool that if you, to go back to some of the previous points, if you have a right idea, it can help you a lot. Some of the best examples recently is, I think the movie is called Here with Tom Hanks. I think it was released in 2024. And it was already one of very powerful models. This is before sophisticated Sora, right? That is, by the way, already phased out. That's a separate discussion. But when you think about the tool, they used, I forgot the name of the model, but they used AI to make Tom Hanks young and old, because the premise of the film is everything is happening in one room, right? It's a lifetime. But this is still Tom Hanks, okay? With his nuanced expressions, right? Micro emotions that you can read from the eyes and the face, and then you slap on some filter, right? That changes that his face looks young and old. Or Curious Case of Benjamin Button that did this before AI. So yes, you can do this, I would say, with ease, but does this make you a filmmaker? It's the same, we all drive cars. We're not race car drivers. So you need to learn how to operate the tool, whatever that tool may be. You still need energy. You still need communication skills to talk to people. You need to travel places, meet people, do a background research. Yes, large language model can quickly give you summary, but it won't take you places. As they say, when you travel, 60 years ago, you travel from London to Sydney, right? It takes you in 7 different cities. And then you go from something cold and damp, becomes more hot, you come to Middle East, you meet different people, it's different smells, and then you end up in a different country. Right now, if you don't do a proper research, and we know in film, research is usually takes a lot more time than production itself or even post-production. And I think that drive to actually know what you're doing or be original, this is another big thing. Like, for example, Sora, that was advertised 2 years ago as a tool that will make us all obsolete, right, is now phased out because they do have a consistency problem, they have liability problem, and they honestly have problem with being original. You know, in this part of the world, there is not enough data to properly train any of these models to get what you really want. For example, I think the good example is New York City, right? If you ask for Empire State Building, you'll get it. Rain or shine and snow and wind, whatever you want. Try to do the same with the skyline of Doha or Al Zubarah Fort. You're pretty much better off driving 1 hour and doing B-roll yourself or a coverage, right, the way you want, instead of playing with the model that it's kind of there but not really. And if you try to produce another shot, is this really what you want, right? Is this really accurate? I'm not saying one day these models maybe won't be at the level that this is going to be the verbatim copy. But I think for production of original content, there was already a movie in Cannes, screened, fully produced by AI. It was the same with vertical video, that's all I can say. There was a vertical video film festivals, there was 50 of them. By the time I finished my thesis, they all died out. People now understand the benefits and limitations of something that it's vertical, 9:16 frame. And this is how it's going to evolve, I think, one day with AI. It's nice to have face tracking in cameras. It's nice to help you if you're a sports photographer and you shoot a football player, that somebody who crosses the camera doesn't cut your focus, okay? It's hard. It's nice to remove orange construction cones from your beautiful cinematic shot with a few clicks. But again, it's another tool in the bag of somebody who knows how to tell a story and is passionate to do that.
You mentioned many things about AI and about the importance of experience and actual knowledge. But is there something about this region, this language, this culture that AI cannot simply serve yet?
I simply think there's not enough data to produce even simple, accurate photos and videos or where we live right now. And there's a few reasons for it. Again, there's a few Arabic large language models. The data sets, if I remember from one of the last conferences, there's maybe 1.7% of internet data is in Arabic language. And if you go into nuances of cultures, you see, this is what I also say to students. You have 300 million people, I think, Arabs, but these cultures are very different. People look very differently, they live in the different regions, they have different customs, and this is pretty much the same with any region, right? You can go to India, you can go to Balkans. If you zoom in just a little bit, there is these invisible borders where people look, talk, and behave quite differently. So I don't think there is simply enough data out there to make something that is accurate, you know. So one day we may come to the point that these large language models will have enough data to produce more accurate images and videos. How, I don't know, inspiring they will be or original, I don't know. And again, I think we do have a course in year 4 that is all about AI, producing everything from script to screen with AI. So we're not ignoring these tools. And there is part of the student versatility is, you know, using AI tools in writing. But again, they can correct your writing, assuming your writing is original. You can check multiple sources, right? They can feed multiple streams, do a digest for you. This is all useful stuff in academic research, journalistic research. It can make you be more productive. But I guess the catch is with this generational switch, how do you train new generation? Critical thinking is often a word that we use frequently. But in my opinion, critical thinking is coming from the broad point of view on the world, on the cultures, on the industries. And then you can kind of fine tune to something else. Because if you grew up by use of if you never write anything that is really yours, that you're not a writer, right? You're just copying things and you're interpreting stuff. And honestly, even before AI, there was this formula on the internet. You have 1% of real creators, 9% compiles, and 90% simply consumes. So if you now multiply this with AI, who makes production very, very, very simple, some people may monetize on it, but I don't think in the long run, the physicality of production will ever disappear completely.
It's very insightful. But when you imagine what this industry could become, what do you see?
You mean in Qatar?
Yes.
Well, if we have a few more, we can look at examples in the region. We can look what's going on in places like Abu Dhabi or Dubai. And I'm not saying we need to replicate, right? The mission and vision doesn't have to be the same. But the production capacity is a key. If we would have, when I say we, just to clarify, I mean the cinema, like community support of people interested in cinema production. If there is a sound stage that is accessible to young filmmakers, if there is at least one large production space, full-size studio, right, that can be booked on the budget, I think that would make a huge difference. And again, I would give an example of New Zealand, Lord of the Rings. When the first movie was out, it was B-movie. Like a New Zealand military was building roads for the production because they couldn't afford to build the roads to this filming location, and then military was kind of helping them build some facilities so they can start. And then the money came, then the interest came, then the big names came. So when the King Kong was done in Wellington, they got enough money to build the full-size studio like Hollywood style. 70 meters deep, 35 meters wide, really tall, where you can build cycloramas, you can start developing these like hybrid sets, right? And of course, you will need all bells and whistles, including AI, to support your production. But still, even filmmakers will tell you who are working completely on green screens that the physical props help, right? Actors like that, it helps them move better. The fight scenes look better. And then you do 5 million polygons on a King Kong hair, with kind of blood and water. Technology can help, but I think the truth is somewhere in between. And when it comes to industry, to kickstarting film industry, there is another really important point. I like to remind anybody listening out there that the film industry needs a lot of support. So you have one director, okay, you know about James Cameron, and then there is 5,000 people in the credit line. There is 11 camera operators for a massive, complicated scenes, one director of photography, and there is a myriad of other crew, including carpenters who build sets, catering, drivers, all these other support crew, and then the whole post-production pipeline that has thousands, So this means ecosystem, and this means jobs, people of different walks of life coming, part-timers, full-timers, contractors. New Zealand film industry Veta Digital team was fluctuating between, to my understanding, 800 people up to 3,000, depending on the project. And again, on that note, how they were able to adapt quickly. Well, Victoria University built like a satellite campus close to production studios. And then students who are, again, pre-vetted, who has a certain skills and interest to be in the post-production pipeline or production pipeline, were doing their apprenticeships or, capstones, work placements in this satellite campus. But the way the curriculum, you have your base, obviously. You need everybody needs that for to be accredited as academic program. But then elective courses are selected by Veta Digital. And they know if James Cameron came and said, I need, 300 shader artists in Maya, Blender, Houdini for the next 3 years. And it's a beautiful pipeline, right? It's right there. Students, young people, members of community can apply for the program. And here's the production next door. And the curriculum is relevant because it's industry driven. To some extent, we are doing this in Doha already through our program advisory committee meetings. We do talk to industry twice a year. We have these scientific breakfasts. We try to organize them off campus in more informal settings. And then we talk to people. Very simple questions. What do you need? What your production company needs from academia in the next 3 to 5 years.
For a young person who's serious about working in film or media, where should they start?
They can start making movies with their phones. Because some of the most successful projects, one that I did in New York for fun, I was in charge of lighting setups, director of photography on this film. And interestingly enough, we had a Canon 5D, was a flagship camera at the time, for behind-the-scenes photos. But because the smartphones was something interesting, we actually purchased like a Joby Gorilla Pod. We put the Gorilla Pod on the director's face, it should be like a point of view, with the phone, and we shot everything with the phone. To make it a bit more professional, we use snap-on lenses. And then we did have real actors. We had the fog machines and a lot of lights. And, we dressed the set properly. But it was, for the audience, this was like made on iPhone, right? And we actually approached to Apple for endorsement, and they didn't want to give us one. But when the movie had a successful festival run, they gave us one. Because it was a good promo, made on iPhone. But then all behind the scenes were done with one of the most expensive DSLRs at the time. And you don't always disclose that it was professional crew with makeup artists, and everything else. But my point is, it can be done on the budget. You should do it for fun. Not all the movies that I made were amazing, especially stuff that we did for fun as students. But I think at least for each project, you can grab a few good scenes, okay? Few good takes, build your reel. And this is much more important. Okay, here's the really amazing moment that I got when I was with my family in the sand dunes. And then you put this in a context of something else that you observed in the city, like a unique moment. And then here's the photo of a red moon. I think you show to people that you perceive things, that you are interested in storytelling, and then you make a short film, vertical, horizontal, you play with it. And you see, this is also something that we commonly forget. So much content out there for free that you can kickstart your careers if you're really passionate. And then even before investing in a degree, which our degree, I think it's a really good value for the money. But even before embarking on the university, if you show this interest, I think it's when you actually start doing your academics, it's easier to find subjects. It's easier to continue to be inspired, and eventually the paid gigs will start. You get better gear, you can rent or buy, and you team up. This is really important. Like, not to stay locked in your head, For our students, this is also a really, really big deal in the labs to give formative feedback, not just pat in the back. This is amazing. That has a very, again, limited value. But if you're into something and if you would like to help your mates, you can say, look, I have a suggestion for location. I know amazing location. I know a person who can give you a permit, right, to film there. And this may be amazing setting for your fiction film scene or documentary, or podcast, whatever. But I think this communication skills and drive to do it, that's how you start. You play with what you have, whatever device you have, and you take it from there.
And for someone who's maybe on the fence on committing to this path, what would you say to them?
Again, start producing. Only practice will make it perfect. Like we all been there. It's easy for me to share in year one 100 of my best photos, but I took, 500,000 probably, with 20 different cameras. I think I changed 20 different cameras, all the way from small consumer Fuji. It took me a while so I can actually purchase like a full frame camera body with a nice glass and then fluid head tripod. But that didn't stop me to take photos of everything and anything. And this is what I did for decades, like way before. So when I reflect, when I say to students, I show them some of the sports photography photos. I say, look, this is a digest of 50,000. I haven't shown you the outtakes. Now we do photo walks, we go to a Formula One. And then I say, okay, now try to do like a slow shutter speed, moving shot of an object going 300 kilometers an hour. And then they realize it takes them an hour or more to get one that it's enough in focus, and that gets you this nice motion blur behind that always looks more cool than something that it's easy to be executed with a high shutter speed. So I think practice is the key. And you can shoot sense of space exercises in your house, your apartment. Nobody's stopping you from doing this. Practicing sequencing. You can practice working process. Could be cooking, could be fixing a bike, right? Getting yourself ready, your morning routine. This is the way to help you think as a cinematographer or editor. These two are inseparable. And then you get a better camera when you go to a program like ours or a film school, and you learn to appreciate this difference. Now, okay, I now have a zoom lens, I have a larger sensor, I can now play with the depth of field, I can start pulling focus, moving camera, I understand what is dynamic range, why this camera costs more than that one, why this phone maybe can serve me better for my documentary project than the camera system, that it's too revealing, maybe too aggressive for these types of settings. So again, there is no right or wrong as long as you try and you share the results. If it stays locked in your head, I see sometimes students in year one overthinking this too much. And when you put the idea out there and then somebody comes and says, give you critical but formative feedback, and you team up, you realize you're not alone, and then it becomes fun because ultimately, right, you're supposed to enjoy it.
Well, Dr. Milan, I'd like to thank you. What you're doing is not easy. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much goes into building something like this. Thank you for sharing with us today all of this information. And thank you guys for joining us on the Ajyal Show. See you in the next episode.